I did, because today it seems like a lot of people talking about how they were Panthers until they run up on me or somebody asks me this, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, I knew somebody, and my aunt was, and I asked them. Then the story changes. Then the story changes. Because I said, well, who is so-and-so? And it was my aunt or my uncle. It really wasn't. Yeah, and I'm like, well, who is the aunt? Who is the uncle? Oh, well. So, it's so many so-called Panthers today. Don't put yourself in our situation if you never was there. Because a lot of things can happen to be wrong. And see, somebody coming after me, and then you said they might come after you with some beers. You don't want that.
The analogy was this. Picture you getting into the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime, okay? In Bed-Stuy, in Brooklyn, where he grew up. Referees been paid off, the judges have been paid off, the crowd is going to root for Mike Tyson. You don't have a trainer, you don't have no training, nothing. You step in the ring. That was Black Panther Party against the United States government. That was we said sky's the limit. We said revolution in our lifetime. We believed we could get our freedom. We're young and we thought we could do that. We lost. They beat us. They defeated us. Our advantage is that we were young and we're still here. There's nobody left from the Garvey movement. Okay? We have some grandsons or sons that's still around. Okay? But as far as people that were actually in the movement, okay, they can't go around and do this. I remember maybe 20 years ago, you could find them all down 125th Street with fruit carts and liberation flags and all that. Folks that was actually in the UNIA. And now you have a rebirth of the UNIA, but folks who were actually with Garvey, they're not here to talk about it. Okay, but we're here. We're standing here talking to you right now.
My name is Cyril Ennis Jr. That is my name. My Black Panther comrades call me Brother Bullwhip, which I was given that name by Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother. I'm a rank and file member, but at one point I became a lieutenant of information at the Bronx Ministry of Information, because I used to be distributing newspapers throughout the East Coast. First original Black Panther office in New York wasn't underneath Huey P. Newton. It was called the Black Panther Party, something based on the Lowes County Deacons of Defense.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Revolution Action Movement did
okay.
the Panther Party in Oakland.
Yeah. Okay.
But before Oakland, we had one in New York.
That was based off of the Alabama.
Yes.
So that was based off of like Stokely Carmichael.
Yes, Stokely, like off of there, the Revolution Action Movement, all them. That's when that was RAM and all them. But then they would call themselves the Black Panthers. There's a history behind that. The atmosphere at the time was almost similar to what it is today. They were killing young black men. The civil rights movement was strong. I'm looking at them spraying hoses on my people on TV, dogs biting at my people down south, white people talking about we gonna be racist and we gonna do what we wanna do to black people no matter what. And I was saying to myself, I couldn't live down there because I'd be killed me a cracker. And I meant that. I'm a New Yorker. But then I found out that New Yorker meant nothing because we had these same people right here in uniform, blue uniform doing the same thing. I'm saying something's wrong. I'm not gonna tell it. So of course, me being an old gangbuster, it wasn't gonna be there. I was a jitterbug, and I knew I wasn't.
Gangbuster.
I was a jitterbug. I was a warlord too. So that wasn't gonna happen with me. I was belonged to a street organization and I was coming back to New York, and that just wasn't gonna happen to me. I was raised in my adolescent era. I lived in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I became involved with a group called the Marseille Dukes. That was their name, and the big chapter came out of Boston, Roxbury. So we had a chapter in Brockton, Mass.
If you've ever heard of the Patriot War, well, I'm going to break it down even smaller, even more minutely than the brother just did. If you're sitting outside on your stoop and you have 4 siblings, and you're sitting together and you're talking together or you're singing together, that will constitute as a gang. Not only that, you can go to jail for conspiracy because there's 5 gathered together. All of this stuff came about so that we would not be able to organize. You have to understand why they do the things that they do, because there's a method to the madness.
And it didn't take too much for them to come to any of us in Corona, Queens at the time, because we wasn't no joke. Okay, let me give you a little story of Corona, Queens. Corona, Queens had 2 gangs. I belonged to the chaplain, there was the Panthers. And we fought each other all the time. So we sort of knew each other. Even as family members, we all knew each other. Even if we were opposing each other, different cliques, we knew each other. Families knew each other, went to school, all that craziness. Then, when they killed Dr. King, and I seen my grandmother with a tear in her eye, my grandfather said there and said, "That's so wrong. What did he do?" I was hooked. I was ready to go out there and have war. And truthfully, I didn't care if I lived or died. But when the Panther Party came along, it became, now here's some people that think like I think. And that's what made our chapter a strong chapter, because we understood and knew each other from a different field of. Now, looking at that to say, when I met the brothers in Los Angeles, I realized that was the same thing with them. They were the Slausons and some other things, but they did a bug against each other. And when they became Panthers, they were the same way. And then also in North Carolina, when we went to Winston-Salem, same thing, different thing, click, they came in. So I noticed that all the places that are opposing each other in something that came together, these are people that was at one point gang members against each other, fighting, but they came together and they knew that the person that was next to them was the person I used to do, but I know this person had my back. This person has my back, and I got his or her back. So that's what brought the cohesiveness much more together for us to be Panthers. And I believe that's what scared the shit out of these people. Because once what was divided was now united. And I guess if I was in their shoes, I'd be scared too.
I tell the young people this all the time. Matter of fact, I got a tour next week with some 9th graders. But in the school, before they came here, we had a lecture. And I told them I was old when I joined the Panther Party. I told them I was 19. They're like, "That ain't old. What are you talking about? 19? That's not old." Yes, it is. Because the average age was 17. And younger than that, you had 14 and 15-year-olds that joined the Panther Party. This is who was going and doing all of this work.
We took a stand. And we didn't take a stand as a Braxito. We took a stand because this is something that we believed in, all of us. if you speak to any of us, you come to find out, you could tell who was really a Panther and really believed in what we were doing compared to those who were just in there for the run. You learn to identify the things of your enemy. You also learn who is your enemy. So now, you wasn't looking at just white folks being your enemy. You had to understand the culture of that time. Systematically, what is capitalism? You learn about capitalism, greed, avariciousness, and the avaricious businessman, and how they surplus and eat up everything and just take over the world. And you realize that the police is not there for you as an individual person protecting your community. They're there to protect the businessman community. The police protecting the have against the have-nots. And who was the have-nots? But people that were black, brown, yellow, red. They were have-nots. So who had the most? White folks, white businessmen. Not the poor Appalachian white, because they were in the same situation we were in. We had to understand that. So that means our fight had to be here. And being that our fight had to be here, we had the coalition with people who understood. So books was our first weapons of choice. The gun became the second. But the gun was used and taught to us to use as our technical equipment to use for protection and not to bring it out in the street or antagonize anybody with it. It's for our protection, for our community, for ourselves, to protect ourselves and our people. But the first thing you need to know who your enemy is, know the dialectic of that whole thing of who your enemy is. You need to know what is the political powers of this country, what is power, and who benefits, and you need to understand class struggle. And you had to see who was on the bottom, next, until you see how it went. So we learned, we read, The Wretched of the Earth, Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mass, Frantz Fanon, The Undevelopment of Africa. Okay, so we had these books, and we had PE classes, which was political education, and anybody could come in and come to the political education class. Well, you had a book list. There was a book list.
Okay.
So each chapter was to get these books. So the books was there. I was glad to read some of these books. I mean, these books opened me into understanding that there was no difference. That suppression and fascism was a global thing, with the governments being run by the so-called super rich, and who the super rich was. That was another book. We had books on the super rich, the 42 families at the time. I mean, there's more now, but you read about the 42 families. So we started to know the Mellons, the Hunts, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, the various banks, Chase, all that. You know, we started reading about, so we knew the oil companies, Shell, Mobil, Exxon. So we started reading how this and how they were exploiting the people of these various lands to get these things. There was no difference. We knew about Patrice Lumumba. We seen what they did to her. Stephen Biko down in South Africa, and how the oppressive piece down there, how apartheid in South Africa was. Down there, they call it apartheid, but the same shit was happening here in New York. Yeah, Jim Crow was the same thing as that. The homes, the so-called, the lands where they put the people living in the villages, put them out of their homes in South Africa, make them live in these villages someplace. It's the same thing they were doing to the indigenous people. There was no difference. So everything showed us how What looks like one thing was the same as the other, just by a different name.
This was the very first newspaper that was put out there in the street. This is the original paper. Okay. So that y'all can see. Number one, Black News Service is set up. Then we graduated to making a full-size newspaper. Now, my brother Sam Napier was the one who helped run distribution to get this paper out. We printed in San Francisco. The FBI got to all the printers in San Francisco, and they refused to print the paper. Finally, they refused. There's 3 different printing companies that when one would say no, people in Frisco would go to the other one, and then when they all said no, they came to New York. Sam Napier was the distribution manager. The reason why I know I was the officer of the day. So that was like the office manager. So I ran the office. But what happened was, Sam said, listen, I got this money, I got the negatives. We need to find a printer. I said, man, this is New York City. We're gonna find a printer. And we proceeded to go to all these printers in the cities and counties. We go there and they say, oh yeah, you print paper, yeah. As soon as he pulled out the negative, oh no, we can't print that. So after the 6-1, it was called Ballon Printing. I don't know if some of you youngsters don't know about it, but they used to have this thing called penny savings.
Yeah.
And it was a paper that you got for free. They gave all kinds of deals all over the city. And this was done by Ballon Printing. So after we talked to them, they said, yeah, how many you want? We told them how many we want. Oh, once a week, blah, blah. He said, yeah. So finally Sam pulls out the negative. Yeah. He said, look at Sam said, what color is your paper? Sam said, what do you mean? It's in the envelope you got. Oh. What color is your paper? Sam opened it up, gave it to him. I said, yeah, we'll print it. Your paper, your money's green, your money's good. Later on we found out Ballon Printing was the front for the mafia. So from then on, Ballon printed our paper because the FBI couldn't mess with them.
That's good. Wow.
But Ballon, years later, people from Ballon used to tell us, yeah, man, that guy came in there and they sit down and read the paper, blah, 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 blah. But they knew not to mess with it.
Spreading the word. Okay? The paper was probably our most powerful tool in terms of propaganda and getting information out.
You didn't use Twitter?
It might be an organization, still.
Matter of fact, driver of the people, that's a story in its own for me, and I tell you why. I never had a license. I drove the people's car. It was a station wagon, green. We used to pick up comrades from the airports, take them to various cities on the East Coast here, move papers up and down the East Coast, go many places. And never had a license, yo. Never had a license. So I always wonder about that to this day because they never stopped me. They never pulled me over. And I'm sure we were being followed, and I know that things happening, but they never approached me in any kind of way of me driving the people's car. Matter of fact, I even taught Jamal Joseph how to drive the people's car when he came up that time to start driving. So I used to drive this car. I just drive the people all, drive comrades all over. Now, one time we went to Boston, and I didn't have the people's car. I think I was with Breeze from Jersey, Brother Breeze. And we went to Boston to deliver papers. And we had the old disco van. What do they call it? Volkswagen mini truck. It was stick shift. Now, I really don't know how to drive stick shift. But Breeze got a little ill. I think it was Breeze, and I'm not sure. I say Breeze because I knew he was with us. And so the person to drive got sick. And they said I had to drive it. You know, you the people's driver, you could drive it. Well, I did sort of get it going, and we was rolling. But when the truck got back here in New York, it was no more good. So I guess I ruined that, but I tell y'all, I drove it. I drove it when I learned. They taught me to do shift and gear. I did what I could do. But I was a good driver, so that was why they called me the people's driver. I was a good driver. I mean, I would pick up comrades from various areas and, like I said, deliver the papers all up and down the East Coast. So, you know, a few people I had picked up, like Robert Bay and Thomas Jolly and them. I picked them up from the airport. Matter of fact, when John Huggins and Bunchy Carter was killed in L.A., I was driving the people's car then, and at the same time, Tang from us was here in New York. And he had spoke at an event. Of course, I had picked him up because he came in as a guest and Panthers were there. We know this is way before we knew what had happened in California. And when the event was over, that evening time, I had drove him back to the airport to get on a plane. When I got back to the office, that's when they told us about John and Bunchy. I couldn't believe it that I had this orangutan with me in the car at that time. It would have had his ass. He doesn't know how grateful he is. Because if I had known, he would have never left New York. That's a story that always bothered me because I never forgot that. Never left New York. With Brother Zaid Shakur and I, we drove him back to the airport. Never knew this. And Zaid was my mentor. So he's the one that gave me the rank of lieutenant information up at the Bronx Ministry. He made sure I moved up there. That's how close Zaid and I was. So, but that piece with orangutan, I never forgot. I took him to the airport and came back to the office, and that's when we were told about Bunchy and John.